Hi Isabelle and anyone else who happens to watch this. I'm Monique and today I'm giving my presentation on my analysis of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. I decided to take a more creative approach to this rather than a critical one, and the reason behind this is that I find whenever I read the novels I'm always wondering what I would have done if it was me in Alice's situations. So this idea is not a new one. I do know that. There's that famous motto, what would Alice do? And it's actually plastered across books, coffee cups, t-shirts, it's everywhere. So I've used this motto and I've applied it to a week in my life. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to present to you the three main points, kind of most successful times that I use this what would Alice do motto in my daily life. So my first introduction to the Alice persona into my own life was to say what was on my mind. Alice does this constantly through the novel with little regard to how it actually affects other people. But in doing some research, I actually found that it's not uncommon for women not to say what's on their mind, especially in the workplace. So furthering on from the research, it was also quite clear that men and women are still not paid equally. And there are a few reasons for this, one being that women seem to leave to have children, and also more men actually hold higher positions. I found that only 4.2% of CEO positions in Fortune 500 companies are held by women. So I also found the point that the reason could be that men and women have different pay variations was that men just feel more comfortable asking for pay rises than women do. So while I wasn't brave enough to ask for a pay rise, I did have a meeting with my manager, and I did kind of lay out to her where I thought I was going really well at work and where I needed improvement. So my aim is to kind of do this throughout our meetings up until we do have our annual pay review, and then I can at least show to her that I have been trying more and I have been kind of taking what she says is constructive criticism. So this kind of first experiment went really well, and I took a lot out of it, and I think it will have a positive effect on my work environment. Following on from this one, on Thursday night I decided to have a little bit of fun with it, and I decided to take influence from one of my favourite chapters, which is the croquet game. I just find this a really fun chapter. It's just so full of imagination. There's nowhere other book that you're going to read about a croquet game with a flamingo and a hedgehog. So with this in mind, I decided to find a fun new sport for me to do, and this is where I stumbled across No Lights, No Lycra. So the idea behind this one is that you just turn up to a hall in your comfiest clothes and you dance in the darkness for an hour. This was a really fun kind of experiment. It's something I would never normally do. I turned up by myself and just danced for an hour, and it was really fun. So I do have to give thanks for Alice, because without it I wouldn't have found it or would have had the courage to go. My final kind of most successful experiment into what would Alice do was actually a conversation that Alice has with a Cheshire cat. So she says to him, "Would you tell me please which way I ought to go from here?" "That depends a good deal on where you want to go," says the cat. "I don't much care where," says Alice. "Then it doesn't matter which way you go," said the cat. This quote really resonates with me, especially at the moment. I'm nearing the end of my 4-year degree. I'm doing a Bachelor of Design over at Paddington campus, and my course is very broad. I study a number of areas ranging from photography to graphic design, product design, and while I really enjoy this concept, it gives me kind of freedom to enjoy a number of areas, I now need to start looking for internships to try and find a job. And I'm finding it really hard because I just don't know which way to go. But with this quote from Alice in mind, basically I've just taken it to be as long as I'm moving forward, if you don't really mind where you're going, it doesn't really matter what you do. So I've actually spent some time this week and I sat down and worked on my portfolio and resume, and I found a few different companies that I actually think I'd like to work at, and I've started sending it out to people. So this is probably, yeah, the most successful thing that I took from the what would Alice do approach. Starting to move forward, which is really positive. So in my conclusion to my week living at Alice, this was such a fun experiment. I had, really enjoyed it. I got a lot out of it. I mean, my work's improved. I think I've got direction almost with uni, and I found a fun new sport to do. So I'd really encourage anyone to kind of have this same fun approach when you're reading Alice, and maybe apply it to your own week. I hope you enjoyed my presentation, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!